Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now call this Brevard County Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting for October 16th, 2024 to order. Our first request, are there any staff announcements? No staff announcements, okay. At this point then, we have meeting minutes. Has everyone reviewed last month's meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the meeting.
I'll second.
Ms. Millard makes a motion to approve. Mr. Holmberg has seconded. I don't believe there's any discussion, any corrections. In that case, I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Next will be Mr. Bodie. Could you tell us about the function of the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body established by the Board of County Commissioners under Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 4 of Brevard County Code. The Board of Adjustment is empowered to hear requests for variances to the zoning regulation and the sign regulation in Chapter 62, Article 6, and Article 9. Pursuant to Florida Rules of Appellate Procedure, any person or persons jointly or severally aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 30 days after the date the order is signed, apply to a court of competent jurisdiction for appropriate relief. Mr. Chairman, you have 10 items on your agenda today.
Thank you, Mr. Bodie. Dr. Bass, would you tell us what the definition of an undue hardship is?
Yes, sir. An undue hardship. A variance may be granted when it will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will result in unnecessary and undue hardship. The term undue hardship has a specific legal definition in this context and essentially means that without the requested variance, the applicant will have no reasonable use of the subject property under existing development regulations. Personal medical reasons shall not be considered as grounds for establishing undue hardship sufficient to qualify an applicant for a variance. Economic reasons may be considered only in instances where the landowner cannot yield a reasonable use and or a reasonable return under the existing land development regulations. The applicant must answer a variance hardship worksheet with 6 questions. The Board of Adjustments will discuss these questions today with each applicant who has requested a variance.
Thank you, Dr. Bass. I'd like to now address the board members, the applicants, and our audience regarding the board procedures for today's hearing. The Board of Zoning Adjustment, as a quasi-judicial board with members appointed by the Brevard County Board of Commissioners, will utilize Robert's Rules of Order to conduct its proceedings. The chair is asking all board members not to ask questions while the applicants are making their presentations. Once the applicants have completed their presentation, we will begin board questioning with the board member who represents the applicant's district. When concluded, questioning is open to the full board. The chair will recognize each board member in turn. Once all board members have completed their questioning, we will then open the floor to the audience who may be here to speak concerning the applicant's application. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak will be given the opportunity to address the board once and only once, so be complete and concise in whether pro or con. At the conclusion of public comment, the applicant will be given additional time for rebuttal, as well as to present their final comments. Once that is completed, No further comment will be heard from the applicant or the public. All action then moves to this side of the bar. We will not use a timer for the meeting. Instead, we are asking each speaker to be concise in what they have to say. It's important that you stay on subject and avoid information and rumor and gossip and innuendo that is not relevant. All persons speaking must provide their name and address for the public record. Those wishing to not verbally state their address may ask the clerk at the podium for an address card. Please fill it out and return it to the clerk after your time of speaking. Are there any questions from the board about these procedures?
No.
Are there any questions from the applicants regarding these procedures? Are there any questions from else in the audience on these procedures? Seeing no questions, we will move on to our next bit of business, which will be our first applicant. Mr. Bodie, could we have our first applicant, please?
Yes, item H1, Mahasu Associates LLC requests variance of the required lot width in an RU-1-9 zoning classification, and this is application 24V00022, located at tax account number 2419409 in District 2. This item was continued from the July 24th BOA meeting.
Okay, would the applicant please come forward? And again, name and address.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead.
My name is Sam Sebaali. My address is 5127 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida.
Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You may recall this item was before you in July, and at the time we talked a little bit about the special circumstances which would justify the variance. I don't know if I need to get back into them, but the main reason the item was continued, we had two adjacent neighbors which had some concerns, and I believe at the time the commissioner asked for me to meet with the neighbors and provide additional information on what we are proposing, just so that the board would have additional information. At the July meeting, we had two adjacent neighbors who showed up with some concerns. One of them was Linnell Johnson, who has a property at 1019 Bevis Road. And I have talked to her after the meeting, and we exchanged some messages. And the last message she left for me was that she didn't have any additional concerns with the project once she understood what we were proposing. The other concerned adjacent property owner was Miss Peggy Townsend, and she lives immediately to the east of the subject property at 1045 Bevis Road. And she did have some legitimate concerns. I have talked to her after the meeting, then met with her at the property, and we looked at her concerns. Her main objections or concerns were related to potential drainage impacts to her property. Her house sits to the east, and the area where we are asking for a variance is going to serve as an entrance driveway or roadway for the property which is behind her property. So the concern was what's going to happen with the drainage in that area. So part of the discussion was to come up with a plan which would not create like a ditch between the roadway and her house, and we would provide a swaled area. So we would fill partially on her property and our property to kind of level it off and provide some landscaping along that boundary with a sidewalk, and just so we would not have some drainage concerns the intent is to have the roadway lower than her house. And I had presented a conceptual plan because we're not at the point where we have a full design. I had presented a conceptual plan to staff, which showed what we are proposing, which I believe is consistent with my discussions with Ms. Becky Townsend. And I had committed that once we start the construction plans and the design, will continue to work with her to make sure whatever we are doing is not going to create any issues. And I believe with that, she did not have any additional concerns, related to the project or with the entrance. I believe she is here today, so, she can address the board if she wishes, but that is my understanding. If the board has specific questions on what we are doing or anything else, I will be glad to address those questions.
Mr. Chair, if I may jump in here for a second. So the applicant has provided a conceptual plan of how the access is proposed. I will tell you that it's just for illustrative purposes. It has not been reviewed, part of the site plan process, or reviewed by any engineering staff for compliance in our codes and regulations.
So it hasn't been reviewed for constructability,
Correct.
but for zoning, as we're
Correct.
doing today.
And part of your direction last time was that you wanted to see how the access was going to be designed, and the applicant has provided that conceptually.
Okay.
Whether from an engineer perspective, it meets all our codes and requirements, that'll be done through our site plan review process.
As long as someone has looked at that, not in detail, but has seen it, I don't need to see it myself. Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So it is conceptual, and the main reason to provide it is to illustrate the intent of what we're going to try to accomplish. And obviously, as we submit, we have to go through a preliminary subdivision plan and construction plans and a lot of engineering design. But we just wanted to convey the intent that we're going to work with the neighbor. And obviously, when we submit to the county, they may view it differently, but whatever we're doing, the intent is to make sure that we're not going to cause any flooding problems to the adjacent property, and we're taking that into consideration. And as the plan changes, I will keep our neighbor updated to make sure they're aware of what we're doing.
Okay. Your application arises, I believe, in District 2, which is Mr. McCann's district, although that post is vacant at the moment. So normally I would ask questions, but we've been through this quite a bit before. Are there any other questions from any other member of the board?
No, I remember the meeting that we had on this before.
Thank you.
Okay. You know the procedure is to set aside. Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against this application? Understood there might have been someone in attendance, but if you don't come forward, that's fine. Okay, sorry, seeing none. Any final words you can give us? Well, you have to come to the microphone. Okay, no final words from the applicant. At this point, it moves to this side of the bar, and I need a motion. It would normally be District 2 have the opportunity, but as chair, I cannot offer motions, so someone else needs to. Oh, come on.
I make a motion that we approve the variance as depicted in the survey with the revision dated, it's 10/16? Yeah.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. Dr. Bass has made a motion to approve. Ms. Millard has made a second. Is there any discussion?
None.
Seeing none, I have to read the hardship questions that we are going to consider with our votes. As soon as I get that out where I can. I'll just take it out here. Okay. As part of your consideration for the vote,
Mr. Chair, can what was the revision date that I have for the survey is February 6, 2023. Was that part of the motion?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
I just want for the record.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
good. Okay. These 6 hardship questions need to be considered as you vote. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. Excuse me. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With that in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Yes, one.
Okay, the motion, chair votes aye. The motion passes 3-1, and it's approved. Mr. Bodie, our next applicant, please.
Yes, item H2, Teale New Haven LLC, request variance of the required floor area for an efficiency apartment in a TU-2 zoning classification. Application is 24V00030, located at tax account number 2800731 in District 5. Also, this application was advertised as 23V00030, but we can let it go forward.
Was there just a point, was there, we got 2 letters, was one of them related to this, opposed or against? Lost track of my letters. No, I don't believe so. Okay,
You're good.
I think we're good. Well, welcome back. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Huffman, members of the Board of Adjustment. My name is Kim Rosanka, 1290 U.S. Highway 1, Rockledge, Florida, with Lacey Lyons Rosanka. I'm here on behalf of Teale New Haven LLC. With me is David Tuttle and Ryan Heiler, and also Bruce Moia, the engineer of record. This is a true affordable workforce housing project under the Live Local Act. The ordinances don't always match up with what the law says it is. So the problem is what they're trying to do here is take an old hotel and convert it to workforce housing using the standards of the Live Local Act. They came in, they sent a letter, which I'll provide to you later, telling staff what they wanted to do. Staff said, that seems fine. They went and applied, they bought the property based upon that. They applied for site plan. During site plan, they found out that the way the codes work, their units were too small. What they propose is to have 254 studio/efficiency apartments with restricted rate rentals of 40%, and then 30% as well for 30 years. And they are 288 square foot units. The code requires 300 square foot when you jump through the hoops to get through the mixed use and the commercial and the residential. So we're asking for, they require 400 square feet. So it's a 112-foot variance per unit that's being requested. I want to go into more detail, but I want Mr. Heiler to talk to you. This is their business operation. This is what they do. They've done this in other communities, and it is truly an affordable product. So Mr. Heiler is going to speak a little bit, and then I'll tell you more about the project.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Ryan Heiler, 452 Northeast 31st Street, Miami, Florida.
And Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us
I
today
do.
is the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much. So as Mr. Zenko mentioned, our expertise is in redeveloping older hotel properties into affordable and workforce housing. We have done about 1,200 either completed or under construction currently, with the closest being a property known as the Teale in Kissimmee on Highway 192, about an hour due west of here, and as far away as a hotel conversion in Columbia, South Carolina. Our goal is to redevelop these using Class A standards with Class A finishes on the interior of the units, solid surface countertops, soft closed cabinetry, all the things that you would see in a traditional ground up development, with all of the same amenities from fitness center, yoga studio, on-site management, on-site repair and facilities management. The trade-off for affordability is just square footage, right? So we want to provide people with a dignified place to live that provides independence away from having group housing or roommates. It puts them closer to their places of employment, so they're not spending 45 minutes to an hour in the car every day, commuting, reducing down on their commute cost. And so we're really excited about this model. We've seen great success with it in other municipalities. There are some letters of endorsement that were provided to the county from other municipalities that have supported these projects as well. So we're really excited about the opportunity and appreciate the attention today. Any questions for me? Yeah.
So I do have two handouts.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, more paper.
So as I mentioned, before, when the company came in, they sent a letter to Mr. Calkins. That's the first letter, and says, this is what we want to do, 245 multifamily studio apartments, 40% of the units will be restricted to 120% AMI, 74 will be restricted to Brevard County definition of workforce, densities of 30 units to the acre, which is the highest allowed by Brevard County, and set forth what they intended to do. They received a letter back from Mr. Ball, which is the second letter, and basically when they read it, zoning classifications considered consistent. If redevelopment plan meets all the criteria of the Live Local Act, it should be noted the highest land use is 30. So they took this to mean it was fine. So they bought the property in May of 2024, submitted site plan in June of 2024, and then got a note saying your units are too small. And that's why we're here. So this is a great project. There may have been a rezoning application. There may have been other ways to do it, but this is what was recommended by staff to go through the variance process, to request the variance of 112 foot to the 400 required foot, 400 square feet for each of these units. Again, this is old construction. They're doing it within the footprint of the construction. The second set of documents I gave you, this is what it's intended to look like. It's using the original buildings, but it is going to clean them up and make them look nicer. You can see on the second page the before and after, and they also have a clubhouse space, another amenity, which was the sushi factory in the front. That's going to be the clubhouse. And then the last page is the site plan that's been submitted, and it shows the phasing that's going to be done. And then also too, of the 8.53 acre property, there's 2.5 acre pond in the back as well that's been there, that will stay there. It's not going to be changed. They're using the exact same footprint. So again, this is something that is their business plan, their business purpose. They thought they had gotten approval through the county, submitted site plan, and they hadn't purchased the property. So this isn't something they created. It's an existing building. They relied upon staff. Again, staff didn't say, yes, you can do this, but they took it to mean that. And this is what they have been suggested to do to get the variance. It's not giving anything that others can't also apply for. We could have gone through a rezoning process, could have gone through a different process through Live Local. But this seemed to be the process to move it forward because they want to be able to open this soon to help with the affordable housing crisis. And with that, we're here to answer questions. We'd ask that you approve this based upon the criteria listed and the answers of the applicant.
Okay. Any other?
No, that's
Okay.
it. If you have any technical question, Mr. Moia is here to answer
We
questions.
may.
Okay,
Or I may.
okay. Yeah, this is your district.
Yes. Let's see. Well, as chairman, I'm not at liberty to make a motion, but someone else would like to make a motion that could second, even though it's within my district. Ms. Millard.
He has a question.
Go ahead. Question for, I'm sorry, I did jump ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Holmberg, you can go first.
Yeah, I have a question. I think it's more for our legal, though, than,
Okay.
I'm just curious, is this one variance for the design or one variance for each apartment?
So the variance is to the square footage, the minimum square footage for each of the units. So as you can tell, this is a hotel that's being converted to affordable housing under the Live Local Act. So the units are actually there. They're going to remodel them and put new fixtures and so forth, but the actual unit itself is there.
So it's one variance, not one for each?
Correct, but it would encompass all the 245 units that are
Yeah,
on
so
the
it'd be
property.
for the design of it, right? Okay. A lot of paperwork for 200, isn't it?
We don't want that many motions.
Yeah, so it would cover all the units, not just
Okay.
one.
Consider it a blanket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to come? I have a couple of questions for you. This looks like a good repurposing.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no interference primarily, which I was concerned about, with other communities.
Mm-hmm.
It's also located in a good area, so these people that are moving in here have access to food.
100%.
They have access to gasoline, so that they can get to their jobs. And it's in a reasonable proximity to gas, restaurants, and other available. Is it on the bus line? I couldn't find.
It is. There's a bus
Good.
stop potentially within 500 feet or so. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
My only question is, I think that's great. My question is, who pays, how is this going to be paid for the outside of the building, the maintenance of the building?
We do.
Okay,
do,
so
yeah.
it'll be more like a condo in that
No,
operation?
it's a rental apartment, right?
Okay.
So it's a purely a rental product, and included in the resident's monthly rent will include all utilities, cable, internet, and we do a valet trash service. So actually, the resident can put their trash can outside of their apartment every night. We come and take their trash away and then leave their empty trash can for them to pull back in the next morning. So it truly is managed from a Class A standpoint.
Okay. I was thinking about with the recent hurricane, if the shingles blow off the roofs.
That's on us.
That's you.
That's on
Okay.
us. Yeah,
All right.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So we have on-site maintenance, right? And so if the resident has a clogged toilet or a clogged sink, or, the batteries are out in their smoke detector, our maintenance staff will come take care of those things for them as well.
Since this is for people to help them, I just wanted to make sure that those costs weren't being flowed down.
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
great.
The other thing that I think is important there, because we are a one-stop shop when it comes to making a one payment every month,
Good.
when someone moves in, they're not required to go through multiple credit checks with the utility companies. They don't have to post multiple deposits for electric or phone or whatever it may be. And so we found that that is much more attractive to our target demographic because it truly is a one-stop shop with a fixed set amount every single month.
And I notice there isn't a pool there, so that's good. We don't have to worry about.
No, we will,
Right.
we will provide a pool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Good.
And we will maintain the pool.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all.
Okay. I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
And one question I'm going to ask you, you may turn to your EOR and nod his head yes. My question is, are you increasing the impervious area?
No.
Or does the existing pond?
I actually,
Handles-
Bruce, I think we're decreasing it. We're decreasing it slightly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll stay within the existing
Correct.
environmental
Yeah,
plans?
correct.
And I don't remember what my second
So
question
I will
was.
also add along
Oh,
those
yes.
lines, from a site plan standpoint, we are redoing some of the fire line system.
Mhm.
So as a part of the conversion, we will be fully sprinklering the entire building. And so we're also increasing the safety of the existing structure well above where it is today.
Okay. I did remember my second question. I don't have anything here that shows me what the interior of the apartment looks like. So you're taking it from 400 feet, nominal, down to, how does that work? I mean, a normal hotel room has a walled-in bathroom, but then
Yeah.
the rest of it's open. Are there cooking facilities? How are
Yeah,
you? Just describe.
Yeah, so we will add a full kitchenette in every unit with soft close kitchen cabinets, solid surface countertops, stainless steel appliances. The way that we're able to adapt this down to a smaller footprint is we do a 2-burner set-in electric cooktop. And instead of a full range, like a push-in stove, we actually do an above-the-cooktop built-in microwave/convection oven. And so you can bake a cake, you can roast a chicken, you can also use it as a microwave. Actually, and here's a...
Well, if you hand it to me, it's heading for staff.
It is
Yeah, we have that. Thank
You have this,
Yeah,
but,
okay.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I hadn't seen that. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right. As part of the procedure now, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak for or against this application? Seeing no hands raised, I will say that there's no questions. Ms. Resnick, any final?
Nothing further.
Okay, then, thank you. It's my district, but as chair, I cannot offer a motion, so I would ask the board to help me here with a approval motion.
I'll do it. I make a motion to approve the variance as depicted in the survey with the revision dated, and I didn't see that. What is the
I don't
current
think
date?
there's a survey.
Do we have it?
The site plan.
It's
So
just-
it's not based on the survey. You could just reference the
Graphics.
variance request as being reduce the minimum square feet for the individual unit from 400
All right.
to...
As depicted in the pictures, and the minimum square feet is defined in the package,
Okay,
Yeah, as requested.
as requested.
okay. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, Dr. Bass has made a motion to approve. Ms. Millard has seconded the motion. Do we have any discussion on the motion? I think we've had a lot of discussion on the motion already. So, with that in mind, I'll do this. I'll tell you, the worst part about the chairmanship is reading these 6 questions. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification, that the literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant, that the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With those 6 hardship questions in mind, call the vote of the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Bodie, could we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item H3, Thomas L. Divita, And Meredith C. Divita requests variance of the spacing distance and the rear setback requirement for an accessory structure in an EU-2 zoning classification, application 24V00031, located in District 2.
Thank you. I see the applicants have come forward. Who wants to swear in first?
My name's Meredith Divita, 5020 Hebron Drive, Merritt Island, Florida, 32953.
Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're giving today is the truth?
I do.
Okay. Would you like to name and address?
Thomas Divita, 5020 Hebron Drive, Merritt Island, Florida, 32953.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Please,
All
how can we
right.
help you?
We're here today just to request a variance for an existing gazebo that we have situated on our existing permitted pool pad behind our house. We're looking for a few extra feet off the back of our house and a few feet from the back line. We actually erected this ourselves back in 2020, and it's been sitting on property through many storms, a great sound structure, so we're just looking to be able to enjoy that area out of the sun, as many of our other neighbors do. Pretty simple.
Just that it's out of the box type of setup from
Costco.
Costco that we bought through the mail. She said we put it together ourselves. It does sit, it's about 2.5 feet off of what the 5 foot should be off the back of our house. And we're just asking for the extra little more than 2.5 feet just to keep it there.
Okay.
We do have some photos if you'd like. I don't know if they're included in what you have.
We have some maps and surveys.
There should be a letter also from one of our neighbors.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes. Yes, we have that.
Some of these photos.
That's very,
Yeah, I'll just hand them. They can look at them. I do have some photos if you guys.
okay. You hand them to us, they go to staff.
It does sit within our structure as well, so it sits on that paver patio, so anything from the front, you cannot see it if you're staying in front of our home, and we do not have neighbors directly behind us as well.
You say you do not?
We do not.
Right. That's the way the picture shows. So, your application arises in District 2, which is Mr. McCann, currently vacant. Frankly, with the photos, I have any questions for you for that. Does anyone else? Can we pass those down? Yes. So I'll see if anybody has questions once they see the photos. Actually, I do.
Yes.
So you're like, what do you call it, the pergola gazebo?
Yes, the gazebo.
Okay. It actually encroaches on the setback that faces the canal.
So, yes, so that's, yep, so that's, we do the 5 foot setback is already there for the pool that we already have, and we sit just within that as well. So
Okay.
that one's it's even a smaller setback.
Okay. Okay, any questions for this applicant?
No.
Yeah, just one quick one. The gazebo's been there.
Yes.
It's not new, correct?
It's not new, correct.
I just have a comment from the drawing here. It doesn't extend beyond your house, and your property is on the water or it's on the road, so I don't see any interference with either one of your neighbors here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And to that same extent, ma'am, the letter that Mr. Holmes wrote says the same.
Exactly.
This-
Goes with the drawing. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Last words? Okay. Procedurally, I have to ask you to step aside just to see. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or opposed to this application? Seeing none, I think you had your last words.
Thank you.
All right. This arises in District 2, but I can't assume as chairman a motion, so back to you guys for a motion again. Let's try this side for a
Yeah.
change.
I make a motion to approve this survey as depicted with a date of 4/8/24.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Ms. Millard and a second by Mr. Holmberg. Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, I will read the hardship questions, if I can find it again. I'll just take it out of here. Okay, 6 hardship questions. The special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. The granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege as denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to public welfare. With those 6 questions in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously and the application is approved. Mr. Bodie, could we have the next applicant, please?
Yes. Shani Murphy O'Brien and Todd O'Brien request variance for the rear setback and side setback required for an accessory structure in RU-1-13, single-family zoning classification. Application is 24B00032, located at tax account number 2439169 in District 2.
Okay, again, District 2 is vacant at this point. Name and address for the record?
Shani Mae O'Brien, 466 Newfound Harbor Drive, Merritt Island, Florida, 32952.
Okay, name and address?
Todd O'Brien. I reside at 466 Newfound Harbor Drive, Merritt Island.
Okay, I will do you jointly together. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Please proceed.
I just prepared a statement because I'm not really good at talking, so sorry.
Could you get a little closer to the
Yep,
microphone,
sure.
please?
We are Todd and Shani O'Brien. Today, we kindly ask for an approval for a variance for our backyard deck. You would be more familiar with it as an accessory structure. We are instructed by Brevard County Code Enforcement to apply for a variance because we cannot pull a permit for our accessory structure. We are unable to pull a permit because our accessory structure has existed since 1975. We bought our home in 2005, and with the accessory structure already existing. This information is confirmed and documentation can be found in our property survey, our deed, and in Brevard County records. We have had no problems whatsoever with our property in the 19 years that we've lived there. However, recently our next door neighbors of 468 Newfound Harbor Drive turned us into code enforcement for our accessory structure. The said next door neighbors turned our property into code enforcement because they are mad at us for replacing our old dilapidated wooden fence, privacy fence, and we installed a new white PVC privacy fence with all installation done per Brevard County code requirements. The next door neighbors wanted our privacy fence to be installed at a height of 10 foot. For our neighbors, we explained the code restrictions. It cannot be 10 foot. However, the said neighbors refused to accept the information and filed a lawsuit against us. The said neighbors were unsuccessful in their lawsuit against us and therefore continuously seek revenge by being physically and emotionally aggression towards us, along with turning us into code enforcement with multiple phone calls. All cases that were once opened have been closed, except for the case on our accessory structure. To reiterate, our accessory structure was already existing when we purchased our home and since 1975. Its configuration is the same today as it has been for the last 19 years that we have lived in our home. We greatly appreciate your time and your consideration and ask for approval for a variance today to keep our home intact. Thank you.
Okay, anything else to add?
No.
All right.
Thanks.
So we will open for questions. Again, District 2 is vacant, so I will take the lead on that. Can I sum this up by saying you're trying to legitimize an existing condition? The shed's been there,
It's been there since
so you're trying
1975.
to legitimize that setback?
Yeah.
Yeah. Since we were turned into code, nobody really knew what to do. And then after a few months, they're like, well, then pull a permit. So we called right away, and then we were told, you can't pull a permit. We don't go back any further than 1991. So from there, it's just been a process for us, quite a journey.
Okay, but the answer is yes, you're trying
I'm
to
sorry,
legitimize
yes.
it?
I'm sorry, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the other board members?
1 second.
Point of order?
So I just want to clarify one thing. So inside our packet, it's just a duplication of a previous packet. Do we have this packet for this case?
Page 3 and 4 are the same.
So,
Would y'all like to look at the survey or something?
yeah, let's,
The back page, the back page looks correct. Survey
Here.
looks- Yeah. So 3 and 4? I didn't notice it on 3.
so this is the survey that should have been included in that packet.
Okay.
So this is the variance that they're needing.
Side variance, right?
Okay.
And back or just side? I think it's just side.
Okay, this is
Doesn't
making me
matter.
nervous.
It's both.
Okay. Yeah. Did you need to look at it, Dr. Bass? Okay. A little bit of record keep on that.
Okay.
So, any questions?
No questions.
No other questions? Okay. Step back and I'll have to ask for, is there anyone here today that wants to speak in favor or opposition to this application? You can come forward. Same thing, have to name and address and
No
swear you
problem.
in.
I'm Richard Bittner, 468 Newfound Harbor Drive, Merritt Island, Florida.
Okay?
I'm the mean neighbor.
Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay. Please,
All right, so
Please-
she was
please
right
be-
about the lawsuit.
please be concise.
I will.
Yeah.
We did have a fence up. It was a wooden fence, and it was on our property. We did sue because they removed the fence off of our property. We did settle out of court, and it was in our favor. Okay? I don't know why they say that. Is this thing on?
You speak into that. Oh,
Is this thing on?
I don't know how to operate it. We'd have to get.
It doesn't
somebody-
move. You
Yes.
wouldn't be able to
Oh,
move it.
okay.
Okay, so if you
So,
look
sir,
here.
just so you know, that those photos have to be, so if you're going to show them, they'll be part of the record, so you're not going to get them back.
You can have them. That's
Okay.
fine. This is what our yard used to look like. You see the back, the hedge, the fence, everything was beautiful. This is what it looks like today. They ripped down the fence And they damaged some landscaping and stuff, which was settled in court. This is how big this thing is with me standing. This thing is a monster. It is an absolute monster. This is the picture of it from my rear neighbor's yard. This thing is almost as big as a house. Another side view on the other side. This is taken from our security camera. My biggest problem here, I understand this thing's been there for years and years and years and years. It didn't bother us because it was all private, okay? Now I don't have any privacy because once they step up on that thing, boom, look who I have to look. That's who I have to see. I have to see from this up every single time someone steps up on that deck. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to not have any privacy. Here's a picture of her on the deck. This thing is, sorry about that, but this is what I got to deal with every single day. I don't want to see my neighbors. I want to go in my pool in privacy. You know, they were required to do, according to the court order, they were supposed to do something for privacy, whether it be a room divider or something by 2 feet. They haven't done it. They're in contempt of the court order. I haven't pushed the issue. Now, let's get to this. It's rotting. That's the roof. Rotting roof. It survived Milton, thank God. I didn't know if it would. There's more rot. And more. If you can see right here, that's all rotted wood. All right, now these pictures were taken, this thing is right against the fence. This is a picture, that's the white fence right here. There's rafters going right to the fence. And it's rotted. And some more of the rot. So yeah, it's been standing for a long time. It's showing. It's absolutely showing. That's how close it is to the fence. I don't even know what the white pipe is. They might have plumbing on that thing as far as I know. But they do have electricity, but nothing's been checked by the zoning. It has electricity, it apparently has plumbing, I don't know what that is. I'm almost done. I just wanted to give you an eye of what this thing really looks like. This is what I have to do for my privacy. I have to put up a screen on string light poles just so I can be comfortable in my own backyard.
Could you put up the picture of the original condition again?
The original
The
when I
one
bought the
that
house?
had the hedge and,
Yes.
so, I guess I'm already starting the questioning, but the upper left of that picture, there's a, could you rearrange that so we could see the top of the photo? Down.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, right where your index finger is there's a horizontal white line above the hedge. Is that the roof line
That's the roof line
of the?
of their structure, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to say this, and you can say, so initially the hedge covered all the way up to that roof line.
So did the fence.
So did the fence.
There was a wood fence there that was 8 feet tall.
Okay, so 8 feet would take care of it.
It took care of everything. I did not have a problem with it.
Okay.
But once they decided to, take our fence off of our property and put the white privacy fence in, everything changed. I had to do something. I have to get my privacy.
So once they took the fence down, which was your fence on your property.
Yes, it was.
And then you went to court.
Yes.
You said you settled out of court.
Yes, sir.
generally, not in depth. What was the settlement? Was that they were rebuild the fence, or?
No, the settlement is they were supposed to supply some sort of privacy by using sunshades, or it could have been creative. They could have put up, room dividers, big furniture. They could have done anything according to the court order. They chose not to do anything.
Okay, so the court order pretty much said replace the screening that was there before without specifying method or means?
Correct. It was,
Okay.
They were supposed to replace the 2 feet that was taken.
Okay. All right. Are there any other board members which care to ask questions here?
Mr. Chair, if I can just redirect the board here. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that any type of fencing, whether it's a screen or a privacy fence, our code only allows up to 6 feet without a variance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Right, that's why we didn't push the issue with the fencing. It was about, a room divider, a sunscreen, sunshade.
There's multiple rules
Exactly.
that come
There's
into play
100
here.
different things you could do.
Did code enforcement go out and look at this?
Yeah, code enforcement, it still has a case open on it.
Is it related to the
It's related to the structure
Structure.
not meeting setbacks.
only, not
Yes.
for the stated rot or structural
Well,
deficiency?
So the condition of the structure is a function of the building department, not part of
Not
code
here.
enforcement. So if there is a reason to believe, that that the structure's unsafe, then we would have to send someone out from the building
Mhm.
official side of things to do an inspection.
Okay, so that shouldn't be a consideration for us today?
No.
It can't be, yeah. All
No,
right,
so what's before you is whether you determine the setback is appropriate for that structure.
okay.
So let me address my question to you. I'm getting confused about what the court order was and what we're doing for the variance here.
I have no idea what the court order, we were not party to
Okay,
that court
so,
order.
all
That's
right.
a
That
civil
has
matter
nothing to
between
do
the
with
property
this.
owners. Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have.
Okay, I think we're done questioning. You'll have to give the photos over to the staff.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor or against this application? All right, seeing none other, you can come back for final comments. No more questions, whatever you want to say to finish things out.
Just that the structure has existed since 1975.
Yeah, please speak in the microphone so we can understand.
The structure
Record
has
you.
existed since 1975. We bought our home like that in 2005. It's been standing all this time through hurricanes, normal weather. Our kids have grown up on that deck. We were in the process of just upkeep on it when we got turned into code, so we've done nothing with it in the last 2 years because of this situation here at hand. So any minor repairs that need done, they can be done, easily redone. We've got spouting running all along there, It's a safe structure. It's been a part of our home for the last 19 years, and we just ask that we're able to keep it. I don't know, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, back to that, the lawsuit. We ended up hiring a legitimate company, Secure Fence. We had them come over 2 to 3 times, check to see if that fence is on our property, and it is our fence.
We did everything per
And we
code.
did everything by code. As soon as that happened, that fence started coming down, the police were called. And then after that, I went in to check to see in 2005 where that wooden fence come from, and that was permitted through Brevard County on our property, 466 Newfound Harbor.
And the lawsuit went to a settlement. As I heard you mention, the shrubbery on their side did help with, their privacy. Through the lawsuit, they killed off those shrubs. I have time-dated, stamped pictures showing the aggression of the trees dying off. And that's why the lawsuit settled, because their attorney could see that they were trying to destroy us, basically. And I had pictures to prove that we did not do anything to harm a fence they thought was theirs, shrubbery that is theirs. There's 11 trees on that side. They killed off 4, including a palm tree. So 3 ligustrums and a palm tree they killed to try to pin it on us that they were losing their privacy.
Okay.
So the lawsuit was settled, and everything was met on our behalf, because we actually, during mediation, offered them $435 for 2 trees to replace the ones they killed as a parting gift if they would just drop the lawsuit and leave us be. They didn't want that. They wanted the whole shebang. They wanted $4,000 in trees, plus labor to put the trees in. And anyway, so the lawsuit was met. We paid them $500, and the lawsuit was settled.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
He
rises
has a
in,
question.
oh, I'm sorry. We do have one last question.
I won't take a lot of time, but I'm thoroughly confused here. I just
It's
want to get
okay.
it straight. What exactly is this structure you have now that we're talking about? Is that a porch?
I have a picture of it here if you'd like. I thought maybe you all had a
Oh,
picture.
no, I don't need,
we
just
saw
a quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it a porch or?
So it's a covered deck is what it is. So
And
it's a
that's
deck.
been there since 1975?
Yeah, we actually spoke with the gentleman who built it.
Are you putting a new one up?
No.
Why are you now asking for a variance on
To
something?
keep, we were told we had to apply for one to be able to keep
okay.
it.
Yeah, to keep it.
So this is something,
That's
you had an
been,
inspector come out, or how did the question of a variance come up?
when we got turned into code enforcement.
Oh, I got you.
They
Okay.
didn't, nobody knew what to do because
So now you have something that's been there since 1975?
Correct.
And you want to make it legal and get a variance?
Yes, sir.
right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, next step is a motion to approve, deny, whatever. Can I have some help from the right side?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the variance depicted in the application of 4/8/2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Hold
Oh,
on.
is that okay? or-
We got to get the correct date from the survey, because what's in here is
Is that the wrong date?
Yeah, 'cause that's the wrong page.
It might
It's
be.
a survey provided by the applicant with a date of June 7th, 2024.
Okay. June 7th, 2024, sounds good.
So we have that motion on the table. Any discussion? I'm sorry. The motion was made by Mr. Holmberg and seconded by Dr. Bass.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Wait, I would like to discuss something.
Yeah, go ahead. Of course.
So I know we're here just for this variance, and I want to be clear as well. So even though that was there since 1975, the point is now everything has been removed, so now we have this concern, right?
Can I,
Yeah.
Yeah, interject.
maybe I can provide some clarity for
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah, please.
So, we don't have any record of when that was constructed. The only way that we can guesstimate is by aerials of when we think that happened. Sometimes we're pretty close, sometimes we're not. But ultimately, it's up to the applicant to provide the date or a building permit of when that structure was built in that way. But regardless of when it was built, this still encroaches into the setbacks. So regardless if it was permitted incorrectly or not, they're still required to get a variance for it, or have to remove it, or reduce it to the variance that they get granted for. But ultimately, it's on them to comply with the zoning regulations.
Okay.
I have a discussion topic, and that is that taking away the issue of the fence and the changes that the fence made, I wouldn't have a problem with this setback. I mean, it's legitimizing something that's been there for probably 50 years at this point, or whatever the timeline of the structure is. the fence has brought it into view, but we are not involved in the fence dispute. That is something else.
Yeah, so Brevard County does require a fence permit to make sure that it complies with 2109. And that, and on the side setback, the height is 6 feet unless there's a variance that's granted. So, but that's a separate issue from, and that's not part of the variance request or any part of this request.
Correct. And just to finish my chain of thought is the fence being a separate civil issue needs to be taken care of in civil.
Well, if there,
or however, it needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, that lawsuit or dispute has to be settled outside in a civil court.
And if that involves getting a variance to put a higher fence along that part of the property, and I'm not suggesting that.
Correct. So,
Then-
like I
then that
said,
would be
anything over
beyond
6 feet would require variance,
Which, okay.
and which you would,
I
all
can't
would.
prejudge a future variance, but sounds reasonable. All right, so that's where my thoughts were going. Any other discussion? All right, I keep losing that. There they are. Okay. So before I call the vote, I will read off the 6 hardship questions that you can use to consider how you are going to vote. The special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. Those, excuse me, denied by the provisions of this chapter, other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With those in mind, I will call the vote. I think this is a motion to approve the variance. Okay, all in favor of approving the variance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The variance passes, the motion passes 4-0, and the.
No, I oppose.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm sorry, I
okay.
didn't hear that. It's a 3-1 vote, but the motion passes and the application is approved. After this next variance, we may take a 5 or 10 minute recess. Okay. So, Mr. Bodie, could we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item H5, Zackery Lively, request variance to have an accessory structure located in front of the principal structure and for the side setback required for an accessory structure in an RRMH-1 rural residential mobile home zoning classification. Variance application is 24V00033, located at tax account number 200690 in District 1.
Okay. The applicant already has come forward. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Zackery Lively, 4239 Peoples Street, Mims, Florida.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay. Please proceed.
So I am trying to legitimize the location of a carport on my property that's been there since before I purchased the property. It was set forth by the the person that I bought it from, the previous owner. It came up, I'm trying to replace the mobile home that was on the property. and it came up in the process of getting the building permit, that it would now be in front of the primary structure, being the house, which will be placed in the exact same place as the previous house was. The previous house had a concrete porch attached to the front of it that we had to demolish to get the old house out and get the new one in. So it will be sticking up a little bit further than the front line of the house, and it's 1.5 feet too close to the property line on one side.
Okay. All right. Do we, let's see, this arises in District 1. Ms. Millard, you have the floor for questions.
Hello.
Hello.
I came out to your property the other day, so I saw the slate. You already have a slate there, correct?
The slab
The slab.
for the house or for the carport?
Is that for the carport or is that for the house?
The slab, I have the driveway going back to a concrete building.
I saw that.
That's an accessory building, and the carport is sitting directly in front of that. The house pad is just to the west of that concrete building,
Okay.
directly west of where the carport is sitting at now.
And you have a neighbor to your left and to your right.
Yes, ma'am.
Your neighbors have any problems with this?
No, ma'am. I talked to both of them. They both said there's no problems at all. It doesn't bother them. I mean, it's been there. The earliest aerial photo that we were able to find at the planning department was 2011, and it was there at that time.
Okay. No more questions. Do you have any?
No, I'm good.
No, I have no questions.
Okay. And I have no questions. So, as part of our board procedure, could you step aside and just need to make the announcement? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, that was a short trip. Any final words before we discuss?
I'm just trying to leave what's there alone and just get a new house put in there. I'm not making any other changes to anything, just pulling a mobile home out and pulling a new mobile home in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Muller, this rises in your district. You have the option of making a motion.
And I make a motion to approve this variance as depicted on the survey provided by the applicant with the revision date of 8/22/24.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Ms. Millard. We have a second by Mr. Holmberg. Is there any discussion?
No.
My only comment is that 2 feet out of 15 is rather minimal. So, all right. Let me read the 6 questions before we vote. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning and classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to the provisions of this chapter or to other lands, buildings, structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With those 6 questions in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously, 4-0, and the application is approved. I said before, after this one, since we have 5 more applications to go, we take like a 5-minute recess, restrooms, stretch your legs, whatever. Mr. Bodie, may we have our next applicant, please?
Yes, item H6, Timothy S. Gannon and Denise Gannon request variance for the required side setbacks and spacing distance for accessory structures in an RU-1-11 zoning classification. Application is 24V00034, located at tax account 2417445 in District 2.
Thank you. Applicant's name and address for the record, and then I'll swear you in.
Denise Irene Gannon, 285 Diana Boulevard, Merritt Island, Florida.
Timothy S. Gannon, 285 Diana Boulevard, Merritt Island, Florida.
Couldn't remember your address.
Huh?
No, you paused with your address, sorry. Just joking. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go ahead and give you a packet that we'll walk through.
We have a packet. There's more pictures and stuff. All right. Do you have a one for staff as well? Okay. All right.
All right.
I think we have some overhead.
There it is.
Oh, there it is.
First, I want to start off by saying good afternoon. Thank you for your time. We're here requesting the approval of 3 variances to legitimize accessory structure setbacks and separation distances due to a code enforcement violation call. You have in front of you a packet of pictures, which is going to help go through this to kind of tell you how we got to where we are today. The first picture there is a picture of the front of our house. Just to give you a little context of what we're looking at. On the northeast side, which is on the left side as you're looking at the house, 2 variances for a roof over the breezeway / covered patio. And then on the southwest side, the right side, 1 variance for a shed, which you can see just over the gate there in the background. The next picture shows the original house as I had purchased it in 2004. I grew up in this neighborhood, raised my kids in this neighborhood, planned to retire in this neighborhood. I purchased the house in 2004, and back then I had kids. Storage was a necessity. These particular houses don't have a high-pitched roof, so you don't have the attic space for storage. The unique thing about this house was it had a 12 by 20 shed there on the northeast side of the house, which was attractive when we purchased it, just because, like I said, we had kids and that would take care of the storage that we needed. All right. Fast forward 20 plus years to now, we have no kids at home, and we are setting up for our forever home. However, we have a growing family, 8 young grandchildren, and more on the way. 2021, we renewed our entire backyard, pool, dock, seawall, deck, turf, etc. We no longer needed that much storage, so we decided to repurpose the footprint of the northeast side. We removed the extra large shed and the 2 sheds behind it that had been there for over 20 years. We purchased a much smaller shed to house our boating gear and water toys and placed it on the southwest side. And we repurposed the footprint of the extra large shed with a covered breezeway / patio. This picture here shows the shed that we put on the southwest side. Variance for the southwest side of the house is for the new small shed to remain where it is. The shed is 6 by 12, which is less than 100 square feet, which does not need a permit, located behind our fence on the side of the house, aesthetically appealing by painting it to match our home. When we placed it there, we asked the neighbors if they were okay with it, since it was going to change the landscape on that side of the house, and they had no problems. Because it was not required to have a permit due to the size, we assumed that it did not need to follow the setback, so that's why it's right up against the fence. Yep. Oh, wait, back to that. In our small neighborhood alone, there are 192 homes with sheds or even multiple sheds, just like we have there, just to kind of show that these houses were built, they're small, families have gotten bigger, people have got a lot more stuff. There is storage that is required. This picture is looking from the backyard forward of the breezeway or covered patio. This is where the two variances are to legitimize the northeast side of the house, where we repurposed the footprint of the extra large shed that had been there for over 20 years. We could better utilize this space for our needs and our 8+ grandchildren. No, we no longer needed the storage space because we had no kids in the family anymore, or at home. But with all the grandkids, I like to come to the house, I like to enjoy the backyard. It was an opportunity to maximize that space to where we could get them out of the elements, the heat, rain, whatever. It's got a metal roof. It's got.
Next picture, go ahead.
All right. I'll come back to that. This is the structure from the side view coming down the street. It's actually more aesthetically pleasing than the original shed that was there.
Next picture.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh. So you can see we repurposed the place where the shed used to be on this side of the house. It is, keep going, not obtrusive. It is against the side of our house. It's behind the front of our house. It is on the side of our neighbor's house to their direct corner off their laundry room. And they even put their boat against our fence right there. You're way over.
No,
This one?
Yep.
This is inside.
Here's the inside of the covered breezeway, along with the metal roof. Roof completely guttered on the outside. This covered patio is fully insulated ceiling to keep it cool, ceiling fan to keep it cool, cedar ceiling also to keep it cool and no bugs, adjustable roll down UV protection shades on each side to block the sun rays and keep cool. We also keep those down pretty much most of the time just for privacy from inside to out and outside to in. It houses our movable barbecue grill with fans to blow exhaust to the street with fire extinguishers which are in place while grilling. Also, it's safe. Previous large shed was there only 2 feet from our home and you could barely walk by it. This covered breezeway created an area where, if needed, EMS could have easy access to the pool and canal front, obstacle-free ingress and egress. This picture just basically shows the temperature change between outside and inside that breezeway. It's roughly about a 12 to 15 degree change. That doesn't take into consideration the UV. We went through the neighborhood to ensure we maintain neighborhood continuity, and there are at least 28 breezeways with roof structures that go from the house and extend to the property line. Also, in November 2023, a variance was approved for an existing similar structure to ours in our neighborhood just down the canal from us on Artemis. So the variances we have requested are for us to legitimize this covered breezeway and not to have to tear it down.
Okay. Your application arises in District 2, whose our board member is vacant at this point. So I'll take over the questioning or initialization of the questioning. I heard you address one of my concerns that I always bring up, and that's emergency access to the back of the house. And you said, I'm looking at the overhead photo, and it seems like the other side is blocked.
No, it's that shed. Are you
That's-
talking the side with the shed or the?
Opposite of the one that we're discussing.
Okay.
Is that,
It's not,
aisle-
that air conditioner is at least 10 feet in front of the shed, so it's not blocked. And the shed, we're asking for it to go, it's a foot off the property line. There is
have we got more than one?
this one. It is, it's
Oh, you're
setback
right.
at least 5.5 feet from the house. That's why we didn't have to ask for a variance to put it next to the house. And then the air conditioner is pulled forward. This is standing on our canal and our seawall cap looking up. So it's kind of at an angle. It's a little deceiving. But there's paddle boards that are 10 feet, then the air conditioner, then another 5 feet, the shed, and then there's another 10 feet to the gate, 10 or 14 feet.
What's the narrowest dimension between any of those obstacles in the house
6.
wall?
6 feet.
6 feet is the narrowest,
From the house wall to the shed, yes.
which is, okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, the survey on there shows the 5.1 feet.
5.1.
I don't have my cheaters on, it's pretty small, so, all right. So you didn't get a building permit to change out all of the changes to the shed? You took the shed and you refurbished it.
We
Did that
actually removed it.
require, you removed it and then rebuilt in the same spot?
Correct.
This new, which, very nice looking. Does that require a building permit?
So sheds that are less than 100 square feet do not require a building permit, but they do need to meet setbacks
Okay.
for the
And-
shed.
And they wouldn't have known that unless they applied for a building permit, or they would have been, it would have been highlighted if,
Correct.
have been-
Or if they call the office, my staff would let them know.
yeah. Okay. But this replaced a structure that was already
Correct.
there, okay.
And that was there for over 20 years. It was there when he bought the home in 2004.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Does any other board member have questions?
I just have one on this, on the side of the shed. It seems like what is your neighbors? Are your neighbors all right with this on that side?
Yes.
Yes.
We asked
Okay.
them when we put it in.
Okay, I wanted to make sure of that, okay.
Just to follow up, when this came up, the neighbors would have been notified by, so
Yes.
if they had a protest, they would be here today.
They would, but I do want to say that this is a result of a code enforcement case. I don't know who submitted the complaint, but this is a result of a code enforcement case.
They're
Okay.
sitting back there.
It's not, the neighbors on the side with the shed, that said they were fine with
That-
it.
That'll come up when I
Yeah.
ask for, okay. Any other questions? Okay. Step back, take a seat, whatever. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? You may come forward, please. And I'll need to get your name and address and swear you in.
Good afternoon. I'm Lawrence Monroe, 305 Ursa Avenue.
And ma'am?
And Stacy Goforth, 305 Ursa Avenue.
Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
We do.
All right. Please present.
We were the ones who did report the code violation. We were before this board last year. And during that time, the chairman of the board had cautioned them. They were testifying against us and brought up things on their property that look like they might not be in line with code. After the hearing, we approached the board. They said that the only way to rectify that situation was to let the county know. So we did that. They were cited for 5 code violations on their property. They testified under oath at that hearing, the same as today, that they spoke to their neighbors, that everything they did was above board. But, well, it turned out that though they had lived in the neighborhood for 20 years, that when they put the sheds on the other side, They never got the variances for those. When they built on our side, that big structure, it's 26 feet to the property line on our side. 26 feet. Their original shed,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the original.
but I wanted this.
So just so you know, you're not going to get those pictures back. They become part of the record.
Okay. That original shed is that size. If you look at it, they doubled the footprint. When they took that shed down, the structure that they have now, see where it stops like mid-roof? They doubled the size of that structure and took it all the way to the property line, over the property line. That structure actually goes 3 inches over the property line onto our property, and the pitch of the roof pitches down. They were draining 26 feet of roof line, and they took their house, literally, they attached that structure to their home all the way to the property line, 26 feet. So we have nothing. There is no setback at all. And then for them to access that the day we got home from our hearing, after they said they talked to their neighbors, they this, they that, when we pulled up to our home, their workers were on our property to work on that because there's no way to access it except on our property. They didn't say, can our workers be over there? Can they put their equipment over there? When they did their renovations in their backyard, their renovations included filling in their swales that the county required. And how did they get back there? On our property with their heavy equipment on our property down that wall. They just took their property, went all the way to the property lines on both sides, didn't get permits, didn't get variances, didn't contact the county about any of it.
In these pictures, they clearly show that the gutter, which they ironically installed the day of our last, is clearly over the property line.
After we'd been asking, because it was draining onto our property, leaving like a big swale there on our property that, and then when they used the heavy equipment to go back, they never offered, there were trenches on our property. They used our dumpster in front of our house. We weren't living there at the time. We had bought the house. And we were doing a major renovation on our house. And when we were doing the major renovation, they were using our dumpster out front to dump all their trash. Our big commercial dumpster was filled twice with their renovations. They never came over and said, hey, we're going to do this, or hey, we're going to build to your property line. So I know they testified here, they talked to neighbors, they didn't talk to us. And on the other side, I don't think that there was a shed. I'm not sure before. Wait. And as for, you had asked about access. That's an overhead picture. I don't know what access, and then next to that shed, another thing that was reported to code violation that hasn't been brought up, and I don't know, when we were notified, we were told that they were issued a violation for it, is the dry sauna in front of that shed. There was a dry sauna, so there's not only, there's a big dry sauna, there's that shed, and on our side is that big other structure. So, and then the other concern for us is the fire hazard. That roof line, it's not next to our laundry room, it's next to our 2 children's bedrooms in the back.
This is the distance.
That's our roof.
Our existing roof and that corner of that very solid wooden flammable.
And they put a wood roof. There's a barbecue in there, and he said it's movable. But for a fire hazard in our neighborhood, on the back street, you guys heard it came before you in November, the hearing on that house. It burned to the ground literally
in 2 or 3 hours, that house, and flames were like going into the neighbors' yards. Right now, they have a barbecue with a wood roof above it within that far from our home. And we think that's a safety hazard.
It is.
When we bought in that neighborhood, we didn't buy with 0 lot lines. And now we have 26 feet of a roof over our property line, 3 inches over our property line.
Mr. Chair, can I just
Yeah,
provide
I
some
would like some
clarification
guidance.
for you? So I don't know anything about a sauna. That's not part of the request for the variances. So the code enforcement case that is being worked on is a separate process. So I just want to just clarify that that's not part of the request before you. The other thing that I want to clarify is that to be cognizant of angles and looking at pictures, and when things look like it's over, it technically is not. What we do have is we have a survey from the applicant, and it's signed and sealed by Advanced Land Surveying that that roof is on the property line. Okay.
So,
But that's what we have to look at.
but
So-
can you clarify that paperwork that
The
says?
survey says that it's proposed, that whenever they
Right,
get
so
their
it's
building
proposed.
permit, they have a 0 lot line.
Okay, but as it
But
currently
right
stands.
now, they don't have a building permit for it.
Okay. As it currently stands, it is 3 inches over the property line as that roof currently stands.
They're correct in that it's difficult to tell from.
No, the
from-
survey says
I-
it's 3 inches over the line. The survey says that. They're saying that they're going to cut 3 inches off of that. They're going to cut 3 inches off of that.
We have one that shows what it is.
Off of their roof line.
If you grant this today, they still have to cut 3 inches off because it,
Okay, so
as
you're
it
saying it
sits today.
encroaches 3 inches over the property line?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
So, Mr. Chair, I just want to be clear, we do not have a survey that shows that that's over the property line. If that was the case, we could not entertain a variance that goes on someone else's property. So my understanding is that if the board approves a variance, it would potentially go up to the property line. It cannot go over that proverbial line.
And we would have to make that part of the motion, is what you're saying?
No, you could just, your motion could just, as requested, based on the survey date. But I just want to make sure that we're all clear that that roof cannot go over that property line.
So no matter what we decide today, we cannot allow?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's a good photograph that it absolutely does go over the property line at this moment.
Okay, well, we'll take that at testimony and also the survey, so.
And the original structure, we do want to stay. It wasn't just them rebuilding the original structure. The original structure was small. That was the original structure there. They took that all the way to the front of their house.
Okay. All right. So,
And it does
does anyone on the board have questions? I asked a couple myself, but any others? Mr. Holmgren?
Yeah, I actually do. I want to put this some kind of perspective here. You're asking for several variances here. This is for different structures or the same structure? This will be, I got the wrong person. I'm going to need them back.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
We can, Mr. Holmberg, we can answer that question if you want to direct it to staff.
Hear it from them, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
So do you have any questions for these?
No, sorry.
Okay, either? Okay, thank you. Time to come back and, what's the verbiage we use? Rebuttal or summary?
Well, we like to address these things at least one at a time. So
I'd like to make a request before we go on.
rules come up.
I don't want to hear anything more about interpersonal relationships. This
No.
is just the facts of whatever the survey and the
Perfect.
the
We like that.
building is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The original shed was 12 by 20. There was 2 sheds behind it. We literally replaced the exact footprint. Fact. It's on our survey. I have pictures from 2004 and the survey from back then. The fire hazard and the house burning down the street is not relative. Go ahead.
It was an electrical fire, had nothing to do with a barbecue grill like they're saying. When we're on that, since we're on that that subject, if they're concerned about it being a fire hazard, why do they park their boat with gas in it right up next to the fence? Just put the paper in.
We'll take your word for that. You don't need a picture.
And, you know, one of the pictures that I showed y'all earlier, when we're out grilling, we have a fire extinguisher right there next to the grill. They grill out, you know, right next to their house. Noticing those pictures, and I'm glad you brought up the fact that you can't go by pictures, so to speak, with the angles and so on and so forth. The fence, if you look at one of the pictures they had, looks like it bows in, and it's not straight anymore. Now, I'm not saying it's because they parked their boat there, but you just can't get a good shot of the roof line with the picture. As he said, based on that survey, they're proposed.
That's okay.
And we can't show but the thing that they were saying about us creating, it's working. Yeah.
So
Water runoff.
drainage? This is the day they were doing construction and the drainage was from their gutter because they did not have a grass down their area. You'll notice it's not next to the fence line.
That was completely from them.
It was completely from their own gutters and not having grass that was making rivets in their yard.
And
They were complete construction. Like they took it down.
I tend not to interrupt people when they're.
That's fine.
But
We just wanted to address the drainage issue.
The drainage issue and the use of the adjacent property, this is probably one of those personal issues
Okay,
that I
that's
said
fine.
let's not
We are
go
fully
into.
guttered,
Yeah.
That's
just
fine.
so you know, all the way around, and it drains on our property now. So I just wanted to address that issue. And
That's it.
then I wrote down the fire hazard. It's completely pressure treated wood. It's a metal roof, like I said, insulated. We just made it through Cat 1, 2 hurricane. We did not expand anything. We just replaced a shed to better use our property for reasonable use like everyone else does. There's 28 other these in the neighborhood. We're not doing anything different than anyone else in the neighborhood does. This is our forever home. We need covered patio for all our grandbabies. I think that's all the issues that came up. We don't want to tear it down. It suits our needs for our forever home. It does not obstruct anyone's view. It is on the side of our property, behind our fence. Their corner of their house is right there. They don't even see it because they look at their boat. And we would never build an unsafe structure next to our master bedroom. Our master bedroom is right there. We've created a safer environment for fire or emergency egress. We have a pool. We live on the canal. We're much more comfortable with it. So we appreciate your time and listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Again, this arises, I believe, in District 2, which I'm covering for our vacant board member, and I cannot make a
I
motion.
have one last question
Oh,
here.
sure, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I think it's for, we'll go with you guys this time. Sure. Could you tell me if the variances they are requesting, if they were approved or disapproved, would it affect the neighbor's yard, the length, the distance in feet or inches?
Do
we know that?
So the proposed variance for their covered patio goes right up the property line. So, and the reason why we have setbacks like that is so to have an appropriate distance between property owners, because during the course of the life cycle of that structure, there's maintenance, there's runoff that needs to be accommodated in there. So, but that's the reason for having setbacks.
No, I understand that, but the current the current variance, that's not going to have any bearing on the property line between the houses, correct?
No, the property line is the property line.
Right, and this has already been done by a survey, so on and so forth, right?
The survey that's included in the packet.
And that's done, okay.
Do we get a motion to approve?
We didn't get
it?
anything.
Not yet, so we need to make a motion. You have another question, okay? Go ahead.
It's for you too. It looks, is there, you asked the question to begin with, for firemen or for anybody trying to get through here, is there room for anybody to get through, say a fireman wanted to get through?
I can't answer that question. I don't know what they require. I would just use common sense.
Well, how much room is between that building and the fence? I can't.
From the.
It's zero.
The survey that they provided shows 5.1 feet between the shed and the existing house.
And then there's an AC.
And then there's an AC unit that may inhibit some ingress egress out of it.
I know, I'm talking about this.
Yeah, I know, nothing there, it's up against the wall.
You were talking about the other side. I'm
Yes.
talking
Yes.
about this side.
No, it's full,
It's what?
it's full, from house to fence.
So there's no space?
Egress is only on the south side.
Okay, egress is only on the south side. There's none on the north side.
Guess I'm answering the question.
There's gates on both sides, ingress and egress are.
If you got to come up to the podium.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's gates on both sides of our house.
No, I'm not
EMS.
talking about the gates. I'm talking about how much room is there between the structure and the fence?
Which side are you on? The covered patio?
This
The
side.
covered barbecue side?
Get the picture of the.
I'm sorry, trying to get the picture that you were looking at.
The way the drawing shows it shows it right next to the fence.
It's next to the fence, but
Show the interior of the.
the gate is, hang on,
Keep going.
one more?
Keep going. Keep going. This way. Nope. This way. There you
This
go.
way?
Yeah.
Is this on? So this is a gate right here. It's a 5-foot gate to get in. And so that goes straight
But that's
back
to the front.
to the front of the house and to the back.
Right, so you can get through from the front to the
Correct.
back.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
about to the side?
That side is
That's
the neighbors.
the neighbor's corner of their house. They live on a corner, cocked on the corner. They have a corner lot.
So the only way somebody can get through here is to go through the building.
They go through this gate,
Right.
and on the other side, there's a whole nother gate. Most of the houses have fence perimeters all the way around, and they have 2 gates, and you can go straight back to the canal and to the pool. All the houses.
We're
are
talking
rated.
about your house.
Pardon?
Right.
We're talking about your
Yeah,
house.
that's what I mean. They go, you can go straight back.
Because
We're at the front of the house. Here we go.
So if I may, it appears that once the gate is open,
Yeah.
that you could get ingress egress, but you would have to go through the covered patio.
That's what my question
Yes.
was.
Be it moving the grill that's shown in the picture.
Right.
No, there's still, that's a 5-foot gate, so the grill hangs, it's on wheels. So it hangs over maybe 3-4 inches.
Right, I
Show
was
that-
looking
show
at
that
that too, the picture, because
Yeah.
you've got your
Yes.
barbecue,
And that's on
which is
wheels.
over the gate.
That's on wheels, so, but yes, they can come right through that. That's a 5-foot gate, it's an extra large gate. So they can come right through.
and then once you get through the structure to get to the patio, it's
right.
wide open.
Yep. Wide open to the pool and the canal.
When we had our discussion before about the egress, I was looking at the opposite side of the house, which is where you said it was 6 feet at the
Yes.
narrowest
Mm-hmm.
spot.
That was the shed and the
So that would
AC,
be-
so that's
they
the
could
other
also
side.
egress through here.
And those are very well separated. This is really long. This is literally standing on our dock, going up a hill. Those are 10-foot paddle boards, then the AC, then there's about 6 feet to the shed. The shed is 12 feet long, and then there's at least another 15 feet to that gate. So that's all open.
But the width is a minimum of 6 feet.
It's
5.1
5.1
based on the surface
feet.
from that shed to
That's-
our wall. So that's why we didn't, it has the separation that's required.
On the south side, or
It's on
This side.
left. Which
Yes.
one?
On this side.
On the
Yep.
southwest side.
Yep.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Trying to keep everything clean and safe.
Okay. Any other questions while they're up here? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Again, we need a motion to approve or not approve. District 2, Mr. McCann is not here. I can't make a motion as the chair, so I need some help. I can second a motion, but I can't make a motion.
As you do that, reference variance 1, 2, and 3, there are separate variances.
Are we going to do a vote on all three at once?
It's
or-
your choice.
I'd like to poll the board. Do you want to try this all at once or take it as three separate ones?
I think we should do it separate.
Let's do separate, okay. So I need a motion on variance number 1, which is the southwest side,
And that's for the shed.
and that's for the shed. It's a different, let's use some terminology here. The shed for the south side, and what can we call the north side or northeast side?
Southwest.
Southwest is shed. And that, oh, okay, so this is only variance number 1. All right. So variance number 1, a variance of 6.4 feet from the required 7.5 feet side setback. Can I get a motion from someone for variance number 1?
I make a motion to approve the variance on 6.4 feet from the required southwest 7.5 feet side setback for the accessory structure.
Okay.
And that's for the shed.
Does anyone want to make a second? If not, the chair seconds. So we have a motion on the floor. And Dr. Bass, it's not this one. We're talking about only this one now. Any discussion? Are we going to move right to a vote on number 1? Okay. I'm going to read the 6 questions, and keep in mind that these apply to the other 2 variances as well. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. So with those 6 hardship questions in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor of variance number 1, as we had the motion for, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Now I need a legal interpretation. We have a motion to approve with a 2-2 vote. Does it pass or not?
Is it 2-2 or 3-1?
2-2.
Well, it does not
Let's
pass.
poll again. Mr. Holmes? Yes or no?
No.
No?
Yes.
Yes? Yes? No. 2-2.
2-2 does not pass. Does not pass.
Does not pass.
No
Okay.
quorum.
Okay. That motion is denied, and so therefore that variance is not approved. Now we'll move to number 2, which, polling the board again, it looks like both of these variances are related to the same structure. Should we put those 2 together in one motion? Because I don't think that
Yes, if it's the
passing or
same.
denying one or the other is going to
Yes.
do any
Yes.
good.
So if I may just clarify,
Sure.
so a variance number 2 is for the setback from the 7.5 feet. So they're requesting a full variance for them from the 7.5 feet. The other number 3 variance is the 5-foot separation between the primary and accessory structure.
So
Ah.
let's do it separate.
Okay. So I need a motion for number 2, which is the zero setback from the fence or property line. Please. Nobody's making a motion. So is this one die without a motion? Anyone making a motion?
You could make a motion to approve it or disapprove it, deny it, either one.
But making no motion at all?
You have to, you have to make a motion, or you have to make a
Okay,
decision.
then the chair will make the motion, in this case, to approve the zero setback as depicted on the survey dated, I can't read this date, I don't have.
Or 6/7/2024.
6/7/2024. So, please, somebody second, let's have a discussion and a vote. Ms. Millard seconds the motion. Do we have any further discussion? I guess we didn't have discussion, we had questions before, but it turned into a lot of discussion, so, any other? All right. The previous 6 questions that I read apply to this
Oh, wait a
variance.
minute.
Oh, I thought you said,
We didn't all vote on this one.
no, I agree.
You agree?
I agree. What I was trying to get out of was rereading all 6 questions all over again. Those still apply. But having read those before, they're in the record. I now call the vote on this one to, the motion is to approve the zero setback for the new covered patio. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay. Any opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Chair also opposes. So that motion failed on a vote of 1 to 3, 3 to 1, whichever way. So that application for number 2 is not approved. Since that really affects
So the motion was to approve. Yeah.
3 noes and 1 yes.
So
the motion is
So
denied.
I would have a motion in the affirmative.
No.
I think we're denying it.
No. So the motion on the floor was to approve the variance.
Correct.
And so if you have 3 in the affirmative,
No, 3 negative.
No, we have 3 in the negative.
3, okay, I
Yep.
got it, okay,
There's no
thank you.
quorum, so
Yeah, I
it's
wasn't
a
sure
tie.
which way. to-
That's fine, I just want to make sure, because.
Yeah, 3 negatives, 1 positive.
Okay.
So the motion
we're good.
fails. Yes, the motion fails. Now my question is procedurally, do we go on to number 3, or this pretty much affects?
Well, you have to make a motion.
To,
Whether it's to approve or deny variance number 3.
okay, so we've already had enough questions and answers. Somebody make a motion to
I'll
approve.
make a motion to disapprove item 3,
Excuse me, what did you say?
depicted on 6/7/2024. Disapprove.
I'll make sure to clarify.
So just to clarify, so variance number 3, the motion on the floor is to deny variance number 3, which is to allow for a 5-foot variance from the 5-foot buildings. Yeah. It's a 5-foot separation.
Says 5-foot spacing, not 5-foot
Yeah,
setback.
it's the separation.
Yeah, okay. So the motion is to deny the application to.
No, to disapprove.
Yeah. The motion is to disapprove the application for a 5-foot spacing.
Between the principal structure and an accessory structure.
Elimination, yeah, between the principal and the accessory structure. Let's see, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
So this means she would have to remove that shed, I mean, the.
We're just denying the
You're denying it.
setback.
Okay.
No, actually, all we're denying is their request for a variance. They're welcome to bring it, another one back.
Correct.
Yes.
They have
Whatever they
options.
need to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not good options, but they have options. So, I think that's the end of the discussion. I'm going to call the vote to,
We need to have a second, don't we?
we had the motion.
Was there a second?
I'll second. There was a second. I'll second. So Mr. Holmberg has made a motion to deny. Chair has seconded the motion. We've had our discussion. Or do we have any more discussion? This one's been a long one. All right. The original reading of the 6 hardship questions still stands for this third variance. At this point, I will call the vote. And this vote, if you vote aye, it denies the application. If you vote nay, it approves the application. So keeping that in mind, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed say nay. So we have 1 approval and 3 abstentions. Well, that
You
doesn't.
have to vote.
I'll
No, you
vote
don't
nay.
have to.
I
I'm
vote
sorry.
nay.
You don't have to vote. Just pass.
So
I
we
vote
have-
nay.
Nay approves the motion.
Yeah.
Nay approves the variance. An aye disapproves the variance.
So the motion on the floor is to deny variance number 3.
And we
If
have-
you vote in the affirmative, that
That's right.
you are affirming the denial.
Right.
Okay. So how many want to affirm the denial? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So there's 2 ayes. Any opposed?
May.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
The vote again is 2 to 2, but that's for a denial.
Correct.
So therefore, legal, does it pass or not pass? It's a denial.
It does not pass,
There's no quorum.
so if you want to entertain a motion to approve and get.
We'll get the same 2-2.
And, well, but then at least that's an outcome with finality.
Okay. So let's put a motion on the floor to approve the variance. I still need someone to state it.
Now, this
Can't do it.
time, a vote, of aye is to approve the variance.
Correct.
And nay is to deny the variance.
Okay. So, all those in favor, can we just say it's a reverse of the previous one, or do we have to state it?
I would defer to Greg, but I would rather have it spelled out.
All right. May I reiterate the motion that Steve is making? That we have a motion to approve the application for the third variance as depicted on the survey.
For the building separation.
For the building separation of the new structure.
Between the principal and the accessory structure.
Right. So, now we have an approval. So, an aye vote approves the variance. A nay vote disapproves the variance. So I'll now call the vote. All those in favor of approving the variance, say aye.
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 Okay. All those opposed?
Nay.
And the chair votes nay. So now we have two
For lack
twos.
of a majority, it does not pass.
Okay, very good. So the approval does not pass. So
Correct.
the variance is denied.
The variance is not approved.
Mr. Chair, who second the motion?
For lack of memory, I'll say I did.
Okay. So this is for the applicant. So since the board did not, the Board of Adjustment did not approve the variance, so you can come back and request a different variance for that, but it can't be the same.
I think you'll, when they come to you, you can work out whatever their options are and all that. Okay. Mr. Bodie, could we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item H7, Kenneth Greenslade and Robin Greenslade, request variance to require the variance of the required width in an AU zoning classification. Variance application is 24V00035, located at tax account number 2410747 in District 1.
Okay. The applicants come forward, please. Applicant or applicants?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hold on. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kelly Hyvonen Delmonico, 355 Spoonbill Lane, Melbourne Beach.
Okay. And I'll swear you in. You swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now
Okay.
you can go.
Sure. I'm here today on behalf of the property owners, Robin and Ken Greenslade. The property you see in front of you, they purchased in January of this year, and it contained an old dilapidated single-family home on it. They demolished it after receiving a permit in February of this year, and the property is zoned AU. They purchased the property because of what they could do in the AU zoning, including construction of a new single-family home. However, construction of a new single-family home on this AU zone property requires a variance to the lot width to be buildable. It's required to be 150 feet in the code, and this is about 124.15 feet. However, if you look at what's in your package of the aerial and the property lines, that lot width is really consistent throughout this area, and there's even some smaller lot widths to the south. So we're happy to take any questions, but we believe the request for a variance in lot width for AU allows them to build a single-family home, just like the surrounding neighbors and what they intended.
Okay. Your application arises in District 1. Ms. Millard, you have the floor for questions.
Hello.
Hi.
So they already tore down the old home, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So now it's just blank. Now they want to build a new home because that home has not been built as of yet, correct?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
and they can't get their permits until after they get this variance.
And that neighbor to the left, they're aware of the variance, correct?
The one to the west, or if you're looking at the house to the south and north?
To the west.
To the west, they would have received a notification about that. However, they have their access off of US 1. And the house that they would build on this property would be very close to Indian River Drive. Or what's that road name called? I almost forgot. Indian River Drive, I got it right. So they would replace the house. You can kind of see it in the aerial a little bit, close to the river up there. So the land on the west side would remain untouched.
Okay, no other questions?
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, matter of fact. Do you know what size the house will be that they want to build on? Is there a drawing or anything in?
About 4,000 under roof.
You don't have the dimensions, do you?
No, because they
Is
couldn't.
this just an idea?
Yes, yep,
Oh,
they have
okay.
they have the drawings conceptually put together, but nothing submitted yet for building permits. But it'll have a view on the west side of Indian River Drive up the river.
Okay.
And everything that they construct it to will meet the standards of AU. We don't need any variances for setbacks or anything like that.
Dr. Bass?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
No, I don't have any questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions. I have to go through the procedure of asking for, so if you could just step
Understood.
aside, please. I wouldn't go too far. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Thankfully, no one. Please come forward. Any last, yeah, I think you gave a good presentation.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this one arises in District 1. Ms. Millard, you have the option of making a motion.
I make a motion to approve this variance of 26 feet from the 150-foot lot with required in the AU zoning classification with the revision date of 8/29/24.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Ms. Millard, and we have a second by Dr. Bass. Any discussion? Only from myself is we run into this occasionally, maybe once or twice a year, where an area like this may have been rezoned in the past over lot lines that already exist, and the gross rezoning hasn't caught up with the individual, or a blanket across all of these lots. So this is not unusual. This happens quite often. Any other discussion? All right. Where'd my questions go?
6 points.
There they are. All right, I will read the 6 points of a hardship definition. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That special conditions and circumstances do not result from actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With those questions in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor of approving this application, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously, 4-0, and the application is approved. Mr. Bodie, could we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item H8, Breanna D. Marks, request variance from the front setback and spacing distance for an accessory structure in a TRC-1 zoning classification, application 24V00038, located at tax account number 2400432 in District 1.
Okay.
Hello.
Name and address, please.
Breanna Marks at 6201 Gulfview Avenue in Cocoa, Florida.
Okay. Are you going to speak?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Father.
Moral support. Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. Tell us what you want.
Okay, so I bought a piece of property with a mobile home on it from the clerk of courts, and it was deemed unlivable, so I had to get it demoed, which I did. And then I got a new home put in where the old home originally was. And there was also a shed on that property originally that I bought that was already there. I just wanted to leave it there where it was originally at and put the new home in. And I had a contractor helping, and I had a mobile home company come put it in and set it up and everything. I got everything done. And I was told after the fact, even though the contractor and the mobile home company had my survey to see where it needed to be put, apparently it was not put in the correct place, and I had all of my, what's it called? My, not permits, it's the, inspections. I was having inspections done, and they were all being cleared, so nobody told me that I had to do anything differently until I got 2 inspections done, and then on the 3rd one, they told me the home was not in the correct place, and it was, I think, almost 3 feet too far forward, so I couldn't do the hardship. Since it was too far forward, I was told to come to get a variance so that I can live in the property. And both of my neighbors, all of my neighbors have been informed, and nobody has an issue because it doesn't affect anybody but me.
So you've been listening to everybody else's testimony about, your application arises in District 1, which is Ms. Millard. You have the floor again for a
Hi, how are
question.
you?
Hello.
I came past your property. I saw everything. So just in the nut and shell of this is that, to no fault of your own, you had the people there to help you, but they just happened to place it in the wrong spot. And now you just need a variance for those 3 feet, correct? Forward.
Yes.
Okay, no questions.
As a father, you should be proud of your daughter.
She did this all on her own and saved up for about 6 years.
Good for you,
and,
good for you.
It's her starter place, but we just,
Absolutely.
we're learning as we go, and this was just a little hiccup.
I
But
do have one question for you. This is
Yes.
not a mobile home park. You bought the property, right?
No, it's I own the land, so
Okay.
it's mine, but it's
All right.
like near one, I guess.
Yeah, good for you. Good job.
Stay close. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, don't go too far. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none, you come back. Final words?
No, okay.
Okay. Ms. Millard, it rises in your district. You have the
Okay.
option of a motion.
I make a motion to approve this variance as depicted on the survey provided by the applicant with the revision date of 8/15/24.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve by Ms. Millard, and we have a second by Mr. Holmberg. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Okay. So I will read the 6 questions that you will consider when making your vote. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With those in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor of approving this application, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries 4-0 unanimously, and the variance is approved. May I ask something out of, how old are you?
I'm 21.
All right, thank you.
thank you all.
You're welcome.
Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
You're not supposed to ask a lady her age.
I just. Okay, like I say, that was not part of the official proceedings.
Mr. Chair, before we leave that item,
Number
am I
9?
reading the survey date correctly? Was it 8/15, or am I seeing the signature, final signature date in the packet as 9/4/24?
I believe you're correct. The survey date is 4/4, but it was digitally signed on 9/4/24. So the official date would be the signature date. That's 9/4/24.
I think we grabbed the last edition of the shed date instead of the actual surveyor's signature date, so.
Was that adequate to read it into the record?
Which item is this for?
That's
Just
just
the one
correcting
that-
the date on the survey from the motion to the
It says it's digitally signed on the date of 2024-9/04.
Correct. Is
So
that what we
should be
said
the
in the
date that
motion?
it should be called out.
Where'd you say that?
Oh, so this date was wrong.
I don't know. I don't remember what date we put into the motion,
I
but
said 11/10.
Regardless of the date, it's pretty clear your intent was to approve it with a survey date that's on the survey.
Is the survey provided?
Yes.
Okay.
correct. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bodie, applicant number 9 for the day.
Yes, item H9, George M. Scarboro and Marilyn Scarboro request variance of the required lot size in an AU zoning classification. Application is 24V00039, located at tax account number 2105509 in District 1.
Who is going to speak? Well, can you help him adjust the microphone or whatever down? Okay.
Hello, my name is Richard Powell. I'm a friend of the Scarboroughs.
Name and address for the record.
I'm sorry?
Your name and address for the
Oh,
record.
yes, sir. My name is Richard Powell.
Mhm.
I live at 4745 Ivan Street in Cocoa, 32927.
Excuse me, we don't have a authorization for you to be the applicant.
Okay. Their son wound up being delayed on the road. He picks up and delivers yachts and boats.
Do you think that he'll be here shortly?
No, what happened is he thought he was supposed to pick up the boat on Monday. Monday happened to
So
be
he's
a
not going to make
holiday.
it to this meeting?
So.
Is George or Marilyn
I'm here, George.
Y'all can represent it, y'all are the owners.
Correct.
They were looking for somebody to speak.
We don't
they-
have authorization.
Okay.
Can they authorize?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Greg, can we take a verbal authorization?
I think so, since the owners are present.
Let's do this. Pull the microphone up, let me swear you in. So name and address for the record.
My name is George Scarboro, 28 D. Diamond Road, Titusville, Florida, 32796.
Okay.
And for the record, go ahead and
Yeah.
state that you're gonna.
No, I'm going to get to
Okay,
that.
swear him in, yeah.
You swear that the testimony you're giving today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my question is, are you authorizing Mr. Powell to speak on your behalf for this application today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you can step back and you can speak.
Mr. Chair, I would have Mrs. Scarborough do that as well. If she's listed on the deed of the property, she's part of the property owner.
This is
Both?
my,
Okay.
That's not her.
this is my daughter-in-law.
So it's a joint.
Yes, George and Marilyn Scarborough.
She's just could not be here for this proceeding.
So Greg, are we on firm ground if we only have one of the owners?
For purposes of authorizing someone to speak, I think so. Yeah, I think.
I just want to make sure.
If one owner, yeah.
Okay.
As long as
Okay.
both of them, I guess, were part of the application, but just to authorize the speaker, I think just the one owner will be sufficient.
Okay. So, Mr. Powell, you can now speak on behalf of Mr. Scarborough.
All right, thank you very much. The essence of what they're applying for a variance for is that their property is less than 2.5 acres, zoned AU. That occurred sometime before they bought the property. A portion of the property was sold off, which rendered it as 1.77 acres. So they're simply looking for a variance to allow them to pursue the benefits of an AU zoned property. The property was developed in 1979, and it's an old structure. It needs to be modernized and continually rendered safe, to be safe. Also, you're looking at trying to compete with properties in the area that have the benefit of submitting for a building permit in order to develop fences for their animals, as well as structures to house the animals. So we've gone through the same 6 items that y'all must have us meet.
We have the application here with the 6 questions filled in.
And I thought that they did an adequate job of presenting y'all with the information.
Okay. Your application arises in District 1. Here we are again, Ms. Millard.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm familiar with the area, it came out, but I need to be very clear today, and I would like you to just clarify everything for me. What you're here today to do is what? What do you need from us?
We need a variance of 0.77 acres in a zoned AU area.
For what purpose? What are we gonna do with it?
In order to develop the property as well as to maintain it. Like, we wouldn't be able to pull a permit to put on a new roof without this.
Okay, so I think it might be me today, maybe I have a brain fog. So when I went out there and I saw the property, right? So they just asking, it's AU property. We're not putting animals on the property, are we?
Any what now?
Animals. Are animals presently on your property right now?
Yes, there's ducks and chickens.
Ducks and chickens, and what else?
Goats, geese, and
Okay.
there's a single guano.
So Ms. Mallard, what I would tell you is that this variance request would legitimize the size of the property.
Okay.
AU requires 2.5 acres, and the
Okay.
property does not meet that. So this is a dimensional variance to legitimize the size of the lot.
Okay, that's what I needed, thank you. So now I'm very clear, because when I came out, I was really not too clear, but now it makes perfect sense to me. So what we're trying to do is what he just said, right? So you just need a variance to make it legitimized, really, pretty much. So I have no more questions for you, I'm very clear on it now.
All righty.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, you have a question?
Do I look like I
Yes,
have a
you
question?
do.
I do have a question. I do have a question. If this, I'm very bad in math. If this was 2.5 acres and you want to take like 3/4 of an acre away, and this was sold off, is there like a bill of sale or something through the county? I mean, how did this happen? You just can't.
The property already is existing,
Yeah, we have the
Yeah.
yes, at 1.77 acres. It was
is.
subdivided into this configuration in 1970.
So it's not 2.5 now, and we're
No,
losing
they're
3/4.
requesting a variance to the 2.5 acres. They're requesting a variance of 0.73 acres from the 2.5 acres required for the AU zoning.
That's correct.
Yes,
But what size is the parcel now?
1.77 acres.
So they're just doing something like everything else that.
They're trying to legitimize it
Yeah,
for the
okay,
size.
I got you. You had me there for a minute. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
My question is more of a point than a question, and that is, regardless of what we do with legitimizing this size, he still has to meet all the zoning requirements of an AU, be it animals, kids.
Right.
The
anything like
uses
that.
already allow based
Yeah,
on the AU
yeah.
zoning, so nothing that you do here would take away or grant additional uses on the property.
Okay.
Questions?
No,
Okay,
that made it clear, thank you.
just hold tight. Are you here to speak in favor or opposition to this? No, so there's no one in the audience that is speaking in favor or opposition to this. You can stay right there. Any final words, and then we'll move to this side of the bar.
Okay.
Okay?
No, I think now that Ms. Mallard is clear, it helps make me more clear too, so, yes, sir,
Okay.
I'd like to move on.
All right, thank you. So, Ms. Millard,
I make a motion to approve this variance as depicted on the survey provided by the applicant with a revision date,
November 10th.
November 10th,
2022.
2022.
I'll second that.
all right, we have a motion to approve the application as depicted on the survey, the variance made by Ms. Millard and seconded by Dr. Bass. Any other discussion? All right, I will read the variance questions and we'll call the vote. The special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification, that literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant, that the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure, that granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With those 6 thoughts in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 4-0, and the application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't, usually these things are printed out. I can't read it. Mr. Bodie, could we have the 10th applicant for today?
Yes, item number H10, Joseph Dechert and Amanda Dechert request variances of the side setbacks required for a boat dock in an RU-1-11 zoning classification. The variance application is 24V00040, located at tax account number 2608862 in District 4.
Okay. This application arises in District 4. Dr. Bass, you have the floor for, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Name and address for the record.
Joseph R. Dechert. I live at 518 Jolly Roger Drive, Satellite Beach, Florida, 32937.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
I do.
Oh, okay. Sorry, jumped ahead there. Dr. Bass, you have the floor.
Okay, so you want to put in a dock?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And we can see that these are very limited areas. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So where,
So.
How much, yeah, would you explain how
Yes.
wide or, how is that going to fit in between your two neighbors on, one on each side there?
So let me pull up the survey. I'm not sure if you have that available.
I do, but
We do.
Okay, maybe I've got a Google Maps image that I
I
can
think we probably have
show as well.
that as well.
Um,
Maybe if you took this and put it on the overhead,
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe that would help
Yeah, that's what I
blow it
was,
up a little. And then you can point to,
Here, flip it
Yeah.
around. Here,
So,
flip it one more time,
flip
so
it.
it's orientated north.
yeah, which,
Oh, other way. There you go.
Okay, so my request is just to build a boat dock along the north property line there. And so that would be immediately adjacent to my neighbor's property line to the north. My neighbor to the north already has a boat dock that's there that extends about 20 feet into the water. Additionally, my neighbor to the south on the kind of southwestern property line has a boat dock that runs about 30 feet into the water, right along the property line as well. So I'm pretty limited on where I can actually place that boat dock. Where I'm requesting to put the boat dock, I think offers, the safest way to actually navigate into that area, having, being in that corner lot, and, just would avoid any potential, issues with, navigation or safety.
now is your boat dock, is that going to be horizontal with the property, or is it going to go out into the water like your two neighbors?
It would go out into the water like my
Okay.
two neighbors, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how wide is the dock? I mean, how much room do you want there? Not that, yeah,
So the dock, the actual dock platform is 4 feet wide,
okay,
and it extends into the water line 30 feet.
okay.
And that's the same, my neighbor to the north has a very similar layout. His
Okay.
extends out 30 feet into the water.
So that would not, that's not going to inhibit either one of your neighbors for getting in and out, because it looks like everything is going straight in. Right,
Exactly.
nobody's doing it parallel.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay.
And I did speak with both my neighbors. So my neighbor to the south, and I
Oh,
apologize for not having copies for you, but he did provide a letter, and it said, to whom it may concern, I have had the opportunity to discuss and review the plans for 518 Jolly Rider Drive, my immediate neighbor, and their plans to seek a variance. This variance would be very similar to the variance I received to build my boat dock and lift. Given the layout of our respective properties, I feel this gives us, as well as the rest of our neighbors, the best possible orientations for our boats and dock usage. I fully support granting a variance for the proposed dock and lift and have no concerns or issues with it. Sincerely, John Sawyer. And then my neighbor to the north also provided a letter to whom it may concern. I have reviewed the attached plans at 518 Jolly Rider Drive to build a 30-foot dock on their north property line. I have no concerns or issues with the proposed layout and the associated variance request to build a dock. Sincerely, Zach and Melanie Featherstone. So they're all on board as well.
We don't have
So-
any copies of this.
yeah.
Can we
Right.
get
Would you
copies of
submit
this?
Okay, yeah, I
those
can
copies
provide.
to- They'll eventually go
Yeah.
over to staff, but let me take them.
Thank you.
Good. Yes. I'm fine
So
with
as
that.
you guys review those letters, so our code allows for projection up to 30 feet because of the width of the canal.
Okay.
And that's what this dock is doing. So the two variances are for the side setback. Our code requires a minimum of 7.5 feet. So there's a variance on the north side, and then there's a variance for the south side too, because this is, when you get at the end of the canal, everything gets jammed up into a
Right.
pie shape. So that's a reason for the variances, for the side setbacks.
Okay.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Does anyone else have
I have
questions?
one, I think you probably answered it already. Is it going straight out or on an angle?
It's straight out.
Straight out?
Yes, sir.
Wow. That's a jam up. What size is your boat?
It's a 28-foot boat. So yeah, I would like to build it not that way because it'd be much cheaper, but that's really the only way that I can.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Good for you, yeah.
Mr. Chair, just so the applicant is aware that the projection includes the boat and the motor.
Oh, good point.
So 30 feet means that that boat cannot go past that 30 feet,
Including the engine.
including the engine.
Is it an outboard?
It's an outboard, and we looked at that, and it should fit within that,
Okay.
that envelope. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's come up before.
As well as these congested
Yes,
lots in the
the
middle. We've had some contentious ones.
Builders like to build close, and
I could
everybody
imagine
wants
that
to have
comes
some
up.
access to their water. Yes.
Okay, obviously, there is no one else in the audience, so there's no one here to speak in favor or against the application. Before it moves to us, any last words?
No, sir. Nothing else to
Okay.
add.
Have a seat, please.
I have
All
one
right.
question. What is the date on the survey? I'm having a hard time.
Only because we can't see it so
We
small.
can't see it.
If the survey matches the one that I have here, it's on the 4th of September, 2024.
Is that correct, Mr. Bodie?
Yeah. There's
8/28.
There's two,
Right.
one is,
Yeah, it's got a revision date with the pylons at 8/28/24.
but I have one here that's survey signature of 9/6/24. Sheet 2 of 2. Oh, that's the same. It's 9/6. Okay.
I will add that
Is it-
there was a bunch of revisions at the end just to make sure that I had the correct dimensioning on there, but there's nothing physically different about the dock.
I just have to
between
get the
different-
date right.
We'll
Yes, ma'am.
just use this as the application.
I would use the 96.
Yeah.
9/6?
Yeah. Okay.
No more questions?
No more questions. We need a motion. Sure, District, Dr. Bass?
I make a motion to approve the variance as depicted in the survey with the revision dated 9/6/24.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Dr. Bass, a second by Mr. Holmberg. Any discussion?
No.
Okay. So I will read those pesky 6 questions. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter. And that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With those thoughts in mind, I will call the vote. All in favor of approving the application, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The application, or the motion passes 4-0, and the application is therefore approved. Do we have any more business before the board today?
I just have one note for y'all to consider. So today's meeting, we had some discussions on some variances, and one of them, we had a denial. So I think moving forward, if you guys can provide just a short reason why for the denial and make that part of your motion, I think it would be helpful if the next step would be for a reason for that denial.
Right. As Mr. Bodie, at the beginning of our session, reads that they have rights to go to a court of competent.
Yeah, there is a appeal process, and they could, take it to civil court.
And so discussion like that within the board minutes.
Just
would help.
just a reason why, and it can be, for whatever reason, I want to put something in there, but, a rational nexus.
For additional clarification, the 6, points that you read with each application are actually intended to be findings of fact because you're a quasi-judicial board. So if you're wanting to do a denial, you may be able to point to one of those 6 as not being met as your reason for denial, or maybe more than one, as the case may be, but.
At what point would we put that into the minutes? Or into the, would we do it at the time of discussion before the vote? Or after? Poll the board after? What?
I would say, I would probably do it as part of the motion for denial due to lack of meeting the requirement, for whatever it is, that we find that, whatever one of those 6 points is not met, and whatever your thinking is. I mean, I'm kind of speculating, but.
Well, I'm small pushback. We get our motions, we try and keep them, my point is to try and keep them clean, saying we're either approving or denying this one as depicted with this exhibit. When you start because of, and you start into that in the motion.
I don't think it has to be a
that's one
detail,
person's-
but you could just say, like, point number 4, does not meet point number 4, or something like that. Or, if you want to say point number 4, with regard to, and I don't have them in front of me. Yeah, but, just a few words to just indicate, what the thinking is without. Now, I think you will have already fleshed out more of it in your discussion before you vote, but.
That's where I'm thinking that, I, in the discussion, I would vote against this because point number 4, it's injurious to the neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I would do that in the discussion. You're the legal expert here, but we found in the past that too much discussion of the whys in the motion, that's one person's opinion, and then somebody's seconding it before the board actually discusses and everybody gets their say. That's all. It's kind of early on putting the reason behind the motion.
Understood.
But how much does the county put into what the other person says as opposed to the client? Because that's a major difference. And all these boards, whether it's county or I was federal government, if you have 6 things that the board deals with, we can make a motion to those 6 things. But if you have people on the outside coming in and saying they have civil courts and, all this, that's really has nothing to do with us. So that shouldn't even be brought into the agenda or to the motion, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
extraneous.
puts us in
Yeah.
a spot where there should be a document that says this committee only makes motions for yay or nay according to the variance, the request, which is why we're here, and the 6 items that are on the end that the head honcho reads every variance. I mean, that's what our focus should be.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really just ministerial, it's actually the basis for your findings of facts, and, the reason you vote whichever way that you choose to.
Yeah. I'm glad we had this conversation.
Seeing no other business before the board, I call this meeting adjourned.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.